What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 73 of EZPZ Podcast. I'm your host, Shaun Johnson. Joining me this week, Lydia.
Hi!
Madison.
What up, what up?
And the big man, Daniyel Turner, returning.
Hey, what's going on?
Dude, you haven't been on since episode 15.
I know it's been about a year, a couple years, 2 years. I'm glad
Almost
to be
three.
back. Almost 3. They're starting to blur together, but I'm glad to be back. Thank you for having me.
Sweet. We got an awesome episode for you today. It's snowing outside, which sucks. It's April
15th, y'all.
Breaking the fourth wall. It's April 15th, Sunday.
A day that will live in infamy.
Do your taxes today.
Yeah, they're due on Monday. Yeah, no, Tuesday, 17th. We got a great show for you, though. We're going to be talking about Sold Out Music Festival in Portland, Oregon, suing Coachella. The Coachella live stream that was on YouTube this weekend. Osheaga lineup, because we got all 4 of us up in here. We're going to be going to Osheaga.
Woo!
Zuckerberg went before Congress, but first, iTunes shutdown was announced this week for March 31st, 2019. It's further proof that the streaming industry is dominating the music industry, sales, and all that. So I just want to kind of get your guys' take on how this is affecting. Will this ever even affect you? I mean, you guys all use Spotify or Apple Music, right?
Yeah, Spotify.
I use Apple Music.
Same.
Yeah.
So
for Apple Music.
I don't know anything about this. I did not. They're just shutting down.
So there's still gonna be a small team helping people that have issues with iTunes and all that, but they aren't gonna be it's not gonna be a prominent thing anymore. And they still have to. I mean, people are gonna have issues with the what's it called? When iTunes first came out, they had the MP3s that were coded so that you couldn't play on other devices or whatever.
What I read is that they're gonna announce it on March 31st of 2019 that they're gonna shut down.
Oh,
so that's just an announcement.
What do you mean? So they're announcing the announcement? I don't understand.
No, they weren't announcing the announcement. That kind of leaked from an internal team meeting where they went through what's happening next year, and one of the dates on there was March 31st, 2019. They're gonna announce.
Officially announce the shutdown. You're right.
So they have a plan, which is kind of cool. I mean, it's nice to know they thought it out in advance, and it is kind of a big deal. For us, streaming is the future of things. We all stream, but I was thinking about my mom.
Right.
Yeah,
Who,
older
buys,
people, yeah.
She buys iTunes songs all the time, and
Still?
Yeah, she
Wow.
asked me how to get into the library and buy songs. She uses Pandora as her subscription service, which is kind of interesting. But it's a big change. I don't know.
The end of an era, I guess.
Yeah.
The article just basically said, this is where the dollars are, we're following the market kind of a thing. So
iTunes or Apple Music's crushing it in the U.S. right now. They've doubled their subscribers to close to 40 million, I believe. And Spotify is still crushing it outside the U.S., but Apple Music's catching up.
Well, Apple Music is, they pay the best for artists. I was reading. I did some research before this podcast, and Spotify pays 0.00397 cents per stream. YouTube pays 0.00074 per stream.
Horrible.
But Apple Music will pay 0.00783, which
Slightly better.
It's not the best, but it's good. And then also Apple Music is really good about booking exclusive releases.
Yeah.
They get creative. I was reading that for Chance the Rapper, they paid him $500,000 to have his album exclusive for 2 weeks. They're creative with their money.
Yeah.
And how they can pay artists, but it is the end of an era.
They do have a huge war chest of money to just dole out to people.
Because they're Apple.
Right.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
Spotify doesn't have that.
YouTube just is horrible, though. I mean, notoriously horrible. You can tell right there. They're 1/4 of what Apple Music is. Apple Music actually raised the amount that they're paying out after that whole Taylor Swift debacle, right at the beginning of their music subscription service. I think in 2015. She came out and said, "Hey, I'm fighting for the smaller artists out there. Hey, I'm rightful. I'm an awesome person." So I've been downloading stuff off iTunes since 2007. I went through my history, and if you look at the history there, it's singles, full albums a couple times here and there, but all these singles. I mean, yeah, it's just I feel like they're a little bit ahead of the curve. making an announcement. So I must have misunderstood the article, but yeah, if they're making that announcement on March 31st, 2019, there's still probably another year or so in there.
They have to have a plan. Like, they'll probably announce something else really cool they're doing with music at the same time. They'll probably say, we're stopping iTunes, but we're doing this too. I don't know. I was trying to make some guesses at what that would be. I don't know what it would be, but it's nice that it's thought out.
Yeah, for sure. And Madison, you said you have Spotify.
Yep, Spotify user, have been for a long time now. And I mean, I guess I don't know why that's my preference. I haven't really used Apple Music, but I like Spotify a lot. I've discovered so many like artists.
Yeah,
there.
$10 a month, $120 a year. And if you're a new user, you get the first 3 months for free.
Oh.
For Apple Music at least. I mean, $90 then for your first year, that's going to be way less than... I was spending like hundreds of dollars a year on iTunes, just downloading the actual songs. Moving forward, though, guys, let's talk about Portland, Oregon Music Festival. Sold Out is suing Coachella over that radius clause, 5-state, 5-month radius clause. So Coachella has control over from December 2017 to May 2018. No artist can play in California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, or Arizona.
What?
Yeah.
Isn't that normal though?
Super.
It's normal, but not
this.
that expensive. So I looked up the distance.
It's too expansive.
Washington from Indio, California, where Coachella is 1,169 miles away. They're controlling a market that's like 1,000 miles. It's crazy. I don't know what decided.
Somebody break this down for me, because again, I don't actually know this much about that. So
Daniel,
a festival can just
radius clauses a little?
So festivals will usually put a radius clause in place so that you only go to the festival to see that artist. It says
okay, yeah.
For a certain period of months before and a certain period of months after, this artist cannot play at any venues in this vicinity because we want you to come to our festival, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
I'm like that.
depending on the radius, right?
Depending on the radius. On one side, I'm like, you deserve this. You've built years making your name and brand. It's cool that you can do that. But Coachella went a little too far when I was reading like all the states this covers.
Oh,
That's huge.
Most definitely.
That's too much.
The 5 months too, they had that extra month out of padding. So the Portland, Oregon Music Festival is next weekend, and they were gonna book like SZA at the SZA artist, but then they were unable to. So like she was going to be one of the main headliners because Sold Out, obviously much smaller than Coachella, probably the biggest, or if not top 3 biggest music festivals in the U.S. Just think that this is super normal, but to hear 5 states, that's insane. So other music festivals like 515 Alive, they are unable to book an artist, for instance, that would be at Pitchfork, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So like 1
They
month,
compete
3
with
months
Chicago,
maybe, 2 state, Iowa and Illinois. I mean, that's super normal, but to hear like 5 state like that, it's almost like a monopoly.
It's industry standard. It really is. Lollapalooza, I looked at, does 6 months before and 3 months after with a radius of 300 miles.
Okay.
that's not.
Which isn't bad. I mean,
Longer time, but
300 miles is not that. I mean, that doesn't cover Des Moines. That doesn't cover Des Moines, or
I don't know. I don't know what kind of research Coachella did to know like we have to go all the way up into Washington. We're going thousands of miles away. Fuck it. I don't know what data or like stuff, like if they could tell that a lot of their money comes from people that live in Washington, and they're like, we're gonna capitalize on that too. I think it's intense. That's too much.
Yeah.
Lydia, what do you think?
It makes me think about Somerset being done this year, at least like on hiatus, and like how that might impact 515 Alive, honestly, like
In a good way.
yeah, because Somerset and 515 Alive, Somerset is a Wisconsin festival that we've gone to historically, and it's close enough that it could, if they had some radius clause, which I'm sure they did, going on, and having them like call it quits this year. And 515 Alive is also in August usually, historically. So I wonder how in the past that might have impacted 515 Alive and prevented, Somerset being the bigger festival, prevented probably 515 Alive from having some of those bigger artists. So I mean, I know that's kind of branching off from the Coachella topic, but that kind of maybe looks good for 515 Alive, because this year maybe they weren't impacted by a lot of those rules maybe that we weren't seeing before. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. As far as Coachella goes, I don't know. I mean, I can kind of it isn't really something that I feel like super passionately like angry about. I guess I can kind of understand being like as big of a festival as Coachella is. I mean, it really is the benchmark for festival season, really. I mean, the fashion, the music. I know we've talked about Ultra a couple weeks ago being kind of as well a benchmark to kind of see like what artists are going to do this year, but in reality, Coachella is kind of like the mother lode. Like
the amount of artists live streaming this weekend on YouTube for free was intense. I mean, Miami is Ultra had a good live stream like they do every year. We've been watching for 3 years now, but this weekend, I mean, we saw almost everybody we wanted to see.
Well, it's a more diverse lineup. Ultra is definitely pretty much 100% like EDM, maybe a couple of hip hop artists like mixed in there, but it's pretty exclusively EDM. So Coachella is more of a staple because it's a wide variety of everything: EDM, alternative, you know, pop music, rock music.
Well, going off of that though, if they have the market like cornered, why do they need such a big, I mean, people are going to go to that festival. So why do they need such a big radius clause?
That is
to
very
ensure in the future. I mean, okay, let's like picture it. So like, what if Coachella had Beyonce, right, and then 2 states up a month later had Beyonce
for cheaper.
Yeah, like it would start to detract from the exclusivity of Coachella. I feel like I'm not saying it's right. I can kind of like imagine like where that would be important to protect that.
Booking Beyonce this year is kind of weird because she was supposed to play last year, right? But then she
got pregnant. Yeah,
it's also
Gemini evil twins.
I agree with you there, Lydia, and this isn't my personal belief, but to play devil's advocate, Coachella has more clout when they're bargaining with these artists for like, this could be your moment. You could pivot here and go on stage and do something crazy, and you could brand yourself this way when you do this. We have these artists that just live in LA. You can fly them out. So Coachella's pivotal. Like, the artist has a lot more to gain from Coachella than they would if they went to a festival that might book them and you would pay less to go see that artist. So I agree with you 100%, but I am just playing devil's advocate to say that Coachella, you can like pivot and recreate there and do big like branding things there that you can't do at other festivals. So I don't know if money is the deciding factor when artists decide to play Coachella.
Well, it's not always, right? Because Cardi B, like we were just talking last night about how, I mean, she's still making a profit, but we were just talking about how much she was investing of her own money to play there. And I agree that it's like, well, it's worth it, you know, because it's about image, really. It's not about like what she's being paid. Like, she's being paid plenty by other things, but like she's making plenty of money. So to go to Coachella, even if it was at a loss, it's still probably worth it. I mean, brand wise, your image, you know, whatever, it's going to boost your career a little bit in a positive light. I mean, you can just see just by going on YouTube how easy, literally, there's a banner at the top of YouTube. Like, you don't even have to search for Coachella. It just literally says Coachella. Like, you just click it and YouTube has exclusive rights to stream it. I mean, how many other festivals have that type of access? What is Ultra on? Isn't it? Maybe it is on YouTube, but I wanted to say that in the past it's been on like Red Bull TV or something. Yeah. So it's just not quite as accessible and doesn't have the reach that Coachella does. So, I mean, in summary, yeah, it's worth it to play Coachella, like, even if you're playing at a loss, and I can understand why they're protective of, like, those rights. Although, you're right, that is quite a distance.
So, Oregon is suing. How do they have grounds
exactly
to sue? I'm just wondering what it's based on, if they already had this.
So the exact quote, I copy pasted it to my little Evernote here. It says, an unlawful restraint on trade meant to use Coachella's market power in the music festival market to suppress competition by other festivals.
Well, I mean, that's the idea, right? I mean, that is basically what we just said. I mean, but we were in support of it, I guess.
I'm personally in support of it, but I can see like a smaller music festival kind of being up in arms.
Once you get to Coachella's point of what you can do, I could see why a lawsuit would come against you, because at some point it's like, you're Coachella, come on.
Yeah,
people are going to come to your festival. Don't make
what about the little guy?
That's true. Like, where do you draw the line?
strangles
Well, I mean,
competition.
that's what these like court cases are for. Is for drawing the line. So yeah, maybe they needed to be opposed and like, hey, okay, chill out with these. Can we just make
it a little smaller?
Yeah. So it makes sense. I mean, I don't know. I guess I feel like I guess maybe I can see both sides on this one.
For sure. Let's jump into that Coachella live stream just briefly because we've been watching it both days, Friday, Saturday, and I mean we're gonna be watching it. I'm sure we're gonna watch at least a couple sets today, breaking the fourth wall again. But that live stream on Friday though, Vince Staples
Yeah.
burning down the house. What did you guys think about that?
He is so cool.
Yeah.
He is. That setup was intense for somebody playing
Yeah.
at like 7 p.m.
His bulletproof vest that he was wearing, and then Tyler the Creator last night was wearing like a
construction vest.
worker vest, like see me. Like Vince Staples was like, "Don't shoot me," and Tyler the Creator was like, "See me."
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
that's
that's
not what I
interesting.
thought. Like I thought that was kind of cool. I almost think it was on purpose that he would wear that when Vince wore. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I
They
found,
both have origins with Odd Futures.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
yeah, I found their attire to be poignant, and Vince Staples blew it out of the water. Like it was so much fun. He's not even doing that much on stage. Like he's literally just he's kind of dancing and rapping, but
He's
it's still
jumping
like
around.
We were here watching it, just oh my god, like freaking out, like having a blast. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I don't mean he's not doing a lot. I just mean like he doesn't have like backup dancers. Like,
Yeah.
it's just him, and still amazing. Like so much fun to watch. And
High quality live stream overall, lots of good camera angles. And for Vince Staples, he was, or maybe was it Post Malone or somebody, maybe it was Tyler. Somebody was standing at the mic though singing, and then there was a camera that was shooting up.
Oh, it was Vince, I think.
Okay,
it was
yeah,
for one of his songs. It was like a weird little angle. Yeah.
And it's not like I needed to see that for much longer than it was already up,
Yeah.
like the 3 or 10 seconds that it was up. But it was, Coachella is like, that's why they're the Coachella, like one of the top dogs, because that live stream super high quality.
I have two things to say on that. Do we have time to keep talking about the Coachella?
This is a conversational podcast, my man.
The first thing is, what do you guys think that says about festivals that in order to see everyone we wanted to see, they had to split it up into 3 channels? Like, I was thinking about that last night while we were watching a Beyonce live stream. I was like, what does it mean that a festival knows that in order to see everything you want to see, you have to be 3 different people, or you have to be at 3? Like, do you think that means they know that you can't get your bang for your buck when you go to the festival and you have to be 3? Like, it was crazy that they had 3 separate channels and we could just flip between and be like,
Right.
I wanted to see that artist,
like,
whereas going to
in
the
person,
festival.
it's definitely on purpose because they're trying to break up the crowds
Yeah.
at like the stages. Like the scheduling conflicts are intentional.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
because they don't want there
And
to be
there-
so many people.
There's
at
already
whatever.
so many, like the crowds are just looking
massive.
so yeah.
That makes
A music
sense.
festival like Electric Forest has a way harder time breaking up the crowds, I think, because there's so many EDMs, like all EDM artists, right? Maybe some indie alternative bluegrass, but a music festival like Osheaga, which we'll get into, especially like some conflicts I can already see that are going to happen, and Coachella, where it's like they have indie alternative, then they had an EDM artist, then they have like a hip hop artist, like all on different stages. Like last night, who was playing during Beyonce?
Alt J.
Alt J,
Part of it,
indie
I think.
alternative, highly
Fleet
suspect.
Foxes, right?
Fleet Fox. Oh no, you're right. Fleet Fox is like into Alt J, I want to say.
Highly Suspect was playing like right at the end of her set, which is like a metal band that sold out here at pre-sale Woolies. I guess hard rock band, and then Beyonce, obviously, who's in her own genre.
Can you imagine being Alt J and Coachella being like, yeah, you're playing during Beyonce?
Well, fuck. We thought this was our moment, but
They were probably more upset that they couldn't watch her backstage.
yeah.
The crowd backstage of other artists watching Beyonce was probably insane.
Wow. Yeah. This was our moment. We were gonna come out
Time
there
to
and-
shine, but no.
We forfeit.
They pull out of Coachella.
They tear up their contracts.
Yeah. So the conflicts, though, massive for a music festival. I guess just in summary.
And the
Well-
other point, or go ahead.
No, you
Madison.
say your point.
How much? This is going to be an interesting conversation to have coming up here, because as we were saying earlier, like Coachella did it really well. You can go click a banner at the top of the page and go see any stream you want to see. At what point is it in the artist team's hands to go to the live streamers and be like, we want this shot here, we want this color to be this when you do this? Like, when does the artist creative control come into that stream? Because that's like a music video for like an hour when you think about it. And that's something new we're gonna have to start talking about, is doing these things creatively, like where that battlefield between the festival just wanting to do a stream because they know it's good for their brand and they know that people want to see it, and maybe these people will buy tickets next year if they see how fun it is, versus the artist being really demanding and being like, no, I want this to be black and white when I'm singing this song. I want you to be at the top of this set piece and follow me down when I do this. Like, how much creative control does the artist have over what's going on?
And you're not even beginning to talk about virtual reality either.
Yeah, I know.
That's great, because in a couple of years we're going to be watching it via virtual.
Like that
I'm sure it's
short
gonna be
Lydia
closer.
skit.
Yeah, I mean that is for real though. So
I think it'll be closer to 10 years, but $50 to be virtually there, I can see that happening.
Like
Huge revenue
way
stream.
less money than actually attending. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
crazy.
50 versus a 1,500.
that'll be just in time for my rave retirement, honestly.
Oh my gosh, exactly.
I can just picture it now as our whole group of friends like preparing for the festival weekend at your apartment or whatever.
VR is super inaccessible.
I brought the Tums.
Overall, I don't think VR is accessible, and it won't be for a long time. Like, actually good VR, like right now you need like a $3,000 PC, an HTC Vive, and that's 4K right there. That's $4,000.
Yeah, I believe you. You're right, but I'm just saying that will change. I mean, that is coming, and it will, even to like what Daniyel was saying, it's even more going to be even more important because you're going to be actually kind of there in a way. So the experience needs to be filtered basically by the artist. Like they need to have some control.
I think the bigger that like you are up on the lineup, like higher up your build, the more control you have. Like Beyonce probably had 100% control. Her team
Definitely
had
of course.
The Beehive had 100% control about what she did last night. I mean, every single movement was her and her dance team. I'm sure.
Which was epic, honestly. Like what a cool idea.
Like my jaw literally dropped.
Switching gears to Post Malone, he had control over whether if he wanted to smoke a cigarette on stage
or PCB.
Yeah, he mentioned
for those who might have missed it, Post Malone, he's so accessible.
He's
That's
a rock
why I
star.
love him. Like I think that he makes himself accessible by being kind of a weirdo. So like you almost feel like you could be friends with him. Like you know. Like I could be friends with Post Malone, like kind of a thing. Like he would hang out like with us. Like he's a cool guy. Like he's down to earth, basically. And yeah, last night he was like, if you got something to smoke or if you want to smoke, light it up, cigarette, PCB. And even like later in his performance, he said like, I'm kind of drunk right now. Like, sorry guys, I'm kind of drunk. But I almost think like. I think that that's on purpose. Like, I think that he says that kind of stuff on purpose. Like, I believe he was, and like, kind of drunk. Like, I don't think he was
definitely
thinking
drunk.
No, yeah.
But I think he says it on purpose, you know, because he knows that that's what the people want. Like, they want relatable. They want, like, he's kind of a pudgy, like, kind of a dude, you know what I mean?
He's a
like,
puffy guy.
Yeah,
Someone said slimy last night to talk about him, I think.
He what?
He's slimy and sweaty after a while.
Yeah, because he had that Chanel candy necklace.
But it was like
it had a little Chanel emblem like also on it. We were like, is he wearing a candy necklace? And then like gets closer, we were paying attention and literally has like Chanel.
You can tell his designer, each little candy cost $25.
I will say though, he did have that there was a dark moment there where he took his mic pack off. I thought he was gonna leave the stage. I really thought this was gonna. Someone said this last night. This is gonna be like a VH1 making the band moment where he's like Coachella 2018.
I blacked out.
I was fucked up, and I took the mic off. Like it was a dark moment, but then at the end he gave that really good speech about the haters and like
a typical
speech.
Yeah.
But then he went into congratulations
So
after.
good.
It was like I was like, okay, you pulled that off. You pulled that off. It was impressive.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy. And I mean, I'm totally biased because he's just someone that I'm kind of infatuated with currently. But I really like him. And I mean, I know it's like not popular. Like it's like, oh, what a turd. I mean, people like to hate on him or whatever. But he really resonates with me. I enjoy it. He does he's winning me over because he has these like videos where he's like singing A Day to Remember and like bands that like Shaun and I grew up like listening to.
Hardcore bands.
Yeah, like metal type bands, and it's just kind of cool. It's just cool to know like, oh, he does like the like kind of similar interests to us, and
It's a bummer. He's only 22 and so. I mean, it's not a bummer, but it's kind of like.
it is weird.
Yeah, he's so young. Moving gears a little bit. Let's talk about. We got us four in this room. We're all gonna be at Osheaga. Let's talk about this lineup. Let's talk about what we're expecting.
Where do we begin?
Yeah.
I mean, so Osheaga is happening in Montreal on August 3rd, 4th, and 5th. We are all 100% going, right? It's just
Yes.
Madison's unsure of like what day.
I haven't bought anything.
The
but
Airbnb
I'll be
is
there.
paid for, my babies.
We have 3 rooms open. If
Yeah,
anyone
anybody out there?
listening wants to come with us,
We're trying
come
to get those
on.
3 rooms filled out.
Submit your whatever, your resume.
Write us. Please submit a profile picture.
Other music festivals you've been to, your experience.
Yeah. Cover letter, you can include all of that.
So we got an insane lineup. The 3 headliners here: Friday's Travis Scott, Arctic Monkeys on Saturday, and Florence and the Machine. None of those are in my top must-see, so I'm just
Not
gonna.
me either.
I'll just rattle off my top 3 artist must-sees. Number 1 being Yeah Yeah Yeahs. Have never seen them before. Been a fan since they're pretty much tied with the Vampire Weekend, which is number 2. But been a fan for 15 years of Yeah Yeah Yeahs. Maps is one of the greatest songs ever written, by far. Suck it, it's true. And then of course, yeah, like it's just said, Vampire Weekend. Where are they even on here?
See, I swear to God, they're not playing.
Oh my God.
And, yeah, no.
Oh my
They're
God.
not on this lineup.
You were saying that last time. No, if you say so, but I don't.
Now I'm not going.
I think it was Lollapalooza.
Yeah, so that's what it was. Because I was trying to get us all to go to Lollapalooza.
Do you know something we don't know, Shaun?
Yeah.
Do they have a radio
That's a really big
spot?
bummer, but at the same time, there's so much other good stuff on here, like Manchester Orchestra. I've seen them numerous times, insanely good. And then we've got The Neighborhood down here, who we watched live stream Coachella. Set was pretty solid. He sounded really good. He's just a sex symbol. I mean, their last few
You keep
releases.
saying that, I'm beginning to think that you might be
It's
the
like
one who
it's
thinks
kind of it's kind of like what people are starting to say about them online. Like in all their music reviews or album reviews for the last few years, it's super true. Like there's no substance anymore. Like they blew their load on Sweater Weather. Like that album, the
You
song.
can't be a Fairweather fan, though.
I'm not a Fairweather fan.
Bands like that, I feel like they go through cycles, and like you're not always gonna release like the best song.
I liked that. I think I listened to that album and I liked it. They have some good stuff on there. I don't know about their more recent stuff, but
People are ever evolving, and
Yeah.
I mean that's a deeper conversation about bands, I guess. But you have to appreciate the art. It's an art form, and it moves in cycles, and not everything is going to be like top notch. Like Sweater Weather was obviously like a next level,
A banger.
song. Like,
That was the biggest song of 2012, 2013, probably.
Yeah.
One of.
Daniel,
So-
who are your
Daniel.
top?
My top 3 to see, I have James Blake. I'm very excited for that. I
So
really
give me
like
a rundown
James
on James Blake. Like, what is he?
he's like
singer.
Really hard to explain.
the genre people call it is like PB R&B. It's like
What? I didn't know that.
hipstery R&B, which is interesting, and it's kind of like dark electronic
Indie
samples,
almost.
voices. He like
he's
samples
gonna put on
himself.
a really weird and cool live show. I
James
think
Blake.
he's gonna be, when you listen to him, like just whatever, you're at home listening to him, he's very like chill, but like eclectic, I would say. And so I think his live show is going to be just something else.
Live show will be really good. It's when you're in your feelings and you want to feel some feels, listen to James Blake. I also have Tyler, the Creator.
Oh yeah.
He's had a crazy year this year. His Grammy nom last year, which was really astounding. I really liked Flower Boy. That was a good album, so I'm excited to see his live show. And watching the Coachella set last night, he's got a really nice stage and set pieces to bring, which will be cool to see. And then finally, I have Calpurnia. I don't know if I'm saying that right. That's actually Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things. That's his band.
What? Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
Finn Wolfhard. He's
the main character.
The kid that gets lost in the upside.
No. The kid that's also in It.
Oh,
that's him.
yeah.
That's his band.
So we're looking here. It's on Saturday. He's one of the lower billed on Saturday, but that doesn't mean much.
Oh, what a little dude!
And so that's always cool when an actor has a band. Like it pays off. Like Childish Gambino and Donald Glover. Like that dynamic plays off. Someone that gets two outlets and to like judge the outlets against each other and compare and contrast them is really cool. So I'm excited to see what he does.
Interesting. Madison, Lydia?
I am holding down the fort for the EDM, you guys. I know you guys are going to probably be like, I'm going to go see this like real band, but I can see like I'm looking at Saturday right now and I'm just going to be B2B like Rez, Son Holo, Alan Walker, who is, I'm not really that interested in, but he was the guy that we were like watching with the like mask from Norway or whatever, somewhere up there. Odessa, of course, like Ray Sermon. I'm actually excited to see him.
He could be interesting, yeah.
I am.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not pronouncing his last name.
He's like up and coming. Oh, okay.
Slim Jimmy and Swale. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We actually got to see them at Somerset 2015 shortly. Lydia and I did.
Yeah, Saturday's going to be a big day for EDM, I feel like, and I'm really looking forward to seeing Son Holo. I think that he's also at Electric Forest.
Yeah.
But I've been listening to a lot of his stuff. Like, he's the type of EDM artist that you finally go to his actual, like, albums and listen to, and you're like, oh my god, everyone's been remixing these songs for, like, 4 years. Like, but they're his songs, you know what I mean? So I'm really excited to hear some of those originals, like, from the actual man himself. And then Post Malone, of course, as I kind of already talked about earlier. I'm really excited to see him again. Unfortunately, the past couple of times that I have been at festivals to see him haven't been the best experiences, not because of him, but mainly because of just the circumstances and not getting to the stage in time and just some other things. So I'm kind of excited to have a redemption, a redemption moment and just kind of be there and be really prepared to see him.
For Post Malone, we just gotta be collectively as a group prepared for probably the biggest crowd the entire weekend, especially 3 more months for the whole entire world to freaking let it sit in of how mega star he is right now, because I don't think that we did last year for Voodoo.
Exactly, that's what I was gonna say, Lydia, is that Voodoo, like, they put him on the wrong stage.
Yeah.
So much happened in between them planning the stages. He had Rockstar come out probably like the week after they planned their stages, and that just took him. That stayed at the top of like Apple Music for like
that's crazy
6 months. I feel like that was at the top. So much happened in between them picking the stages and his success. So I'm ready for this show too. This is gonna be real nice.
We're gonna have to let our fifth guest in.
We got zombie cat outside the door.
But you guys, I really effed up because OK also plays on Saturday. I didn't mean to like leave him out. I'm really excited to see OK.
Tons of artists on here that I didn't mention too. Tash Sultana. Odessa's obviously up there, but just looking at how it's billed right now on Friday, I'm expecting Odessa to play during at least Yeah Yeah Yeahs, if not James Blake and Ray Sremmurd. I mean, look at those are all different genres, all 4 of them. Yeah, it's gonna suck because I don't want to have to miss Odessa by a hat. Can't miss Yeah Yeah Yeahs. They just came back from a hiatus. Who knows if they're gonna be how long they're gonna be playing together again. Karen O's freaking goddess, rock star, beast. So she's won a bunch of Grammys just on her solo work in motion pictures. So she's a beast.
So I'm just gonna have to say 3 from each night because literally like there's so many,
there's a lot.
And it's mostly the lower build people too. So for Friday, likely I can't fucking wait to see her. James Blake, obviously.
I mean, I'm gonna have to listen to James Blake.
You should give it a shot. You might, have to give it a few different listens. Anderson .Paak on Saturday is going to be awesome, I think.
fellow Lemonhead Nick Gandy will not shut up about us having to go see Anderson .Paak.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. And then James Bay actually could be pretty cool on Sunday.
See,
a little
James
bit
Blake
more
and James
chill.
Bay.
I was thinking about that. I was like, you went there.
Who am I missing though? There's a couple. I don't even know. It's just gonna be like so many
You're
conflicts.
super
I'm
excited
sure.
to see Jungle. You introduced
Jungle, yes.
Yeah,
Jungle.
actually-
Borns also. I cannot wait to see him. Do you guys listen to him at all? Give him a listen. He also very excited. So I don't know.
Real quick,
It's gonna
could
be.
you talk about Jungle a little bit more? I saw them on the stream last night, and I was like, I'm
discovered them
this.
through Nambe, which is this guy that I saw at Forest last year, and is amazing. He went on. He played a show with them. It's like this 6 or 7 piece band that just plays like some cool funky music, and we got to see a couple songs last night.
They were intense. They were amazing.
They're gonna be awesome live.
You got me into Whitney before Voodoo last year,
Yeah.
so now I have a feeling the same's gonna happen for me for Jungle. I'm gonna get big into
If
them.
I had to recommend anything, I would say listen to Jungle and Borns and James Blake. So yeah.
Real quick, I
Got
can't
some
let this go
studying to
without giving this shout out. Blood Orange on Sunday is going to be really cool. Yeah.
I haven't heard of them.
It's going to be, he's got like a Princey vibe to him and very eclectic. We keep using that word, but it's true. It's going to be a good one.
Suffice it to say, our minds are going to be pretty blown at Osheaga.
Voodoo last year was the best lineup I've probably ever been to, and this is rivaling it for sure. If it had Vampire Weekend, it would probably be. I don't know where.
Perfectly for me because honestly, my only I'm not gonna have that many conflicts because I don't care. Saturday's gonna be a back-to-back day for me, but other than that, it's just a couple of bigger names on Friday and Sunday, and otherwise, I'm just gonna be following you guys around and checking out some new music. So it's gonna be a pretty fun experience for me, honestly.
I'm probably going to table Osheaga for the rest of, and at least until the day-by-day lineup comes out, then we can chat about it again. Super happy to have you in the podcast, though, Daniel, so we can get your perspective on that. So now I know I need to check out James Blake for sure. Let's dive into our topic of the show. Zuckerberg went before the Congress this week over the allegations with the Cambridge Analytica, the meddling in the 26th election. There's just literally a laundry list of issues with Facebook. So Facebook has a list of issues going on with them. There's so many reasons why you could be upset or angry at the company and Mark Zuckerberg. A lot of them, my personal beliefs, I don't think actually matter. I don't think people should not be getting hung up on this. And I know for a fact Daniel's going to highlight that as far as the Senate hearing.
Yeah, I was going to say I need someone to give me a rundown because I'm pretty ignorant to the situation. I'm very selective in the things that I pay attention to, I feel like, in the media, and I just didn't care enough to educate myself on this. So could someone give me kind of a rundown of what is even the issue?
So the list of issues, that you can be upset. This is in least important, in my opinion, to most important. 2016 election meddling. Don't think that actually is a thing. I don't think that Facebook played that much of a role in that. And that kind of goes hand in hand with the Cambridge Analytica thing. So in 2014, professor, I forget his name, Alan something or whatever, he actually got a whole bunch of data from Facebook for studying purposes, just to do analyses, collegiate analyses, and that ended up getting purchased or sold to Cambridge Analytica, which actually has ties to the Trump administration. So people are saying that the 2016 election meddling, Cambridge Analytica, huge deal.
Mishandling of data.
Yeah.
So it's not what people would expect.
Mishandling of data on such a big playing field that it's if you don't have a hearing for this, what does that mean for the future? They had to do it.
Yeah, I think it is important, obviously, for I keep using this word today, benchmarking. How are we going to handle this, right? This is uncharted territory. This is the first time in human history that we've ever been faced with something like this. There's never been anything like this. Never been anything like the internet, social media, and anything like that. So there's no, crucifles for how we're going to go about handling, people's data and what rights do you have on the internet and things like that. So, it is important, but I don't know.
So
guys tell me what
during the hearing for the Senate especially, the Senate got hung up on the 2016 election, how Facebook played a huge role with fake news, filter bubbles, all that kind of stuff. And they honestly shouldn't have, because Facebook, hands down, the number one thing, Facebook did not sell anyone's data. People are getting it mixed up saying they sold Cambridge Analytica. No, it was sold by they gave the data away. Probably not the greatest idea ever for this study for this professor. He sold to Cambridge Analytica 2014, 87 million profiles data, and they didn't have any hand in that. They didn't make any money off that. But the Senate, and there's so many people that are just don't understand that.
But I do think that the election is a big deal. I mean, what role Facebook played in it, it depends who you ask, how big it was, but that's a big deal. What happened with Russia and maybe Twitter is more so the place to look, but that's a huge deal.
So what does fake news mean to you guys? So the Russia apparently infected us with fake news, right? It poisoned the minds of so many Americans, especially in middle America. What does fake news mean to you? I have a point here.
Well, go ahead then.
Okay, so fake news is confirmation bias. It provides a confirmation bias. That's all it is.
I just was hearing it on the Joe Rogan podcast. I cannot remember who it was, but they made a good point. They were basically just saying, if a couple of articles on Facebook swayed your election, democracy is dead. I do think that social media has a humongous impact on our belief system, and it could influence an election, but if it's the difference between Trump and Hillary, no, it wasn't. Come on. Do we really think that, the issue with Zuckerberg really at the base of it was the reason why Trump won?
No, you're right. There's so many other issues going on in this country that no, right. It obviously had an influence, but I like that perspective, because for sure, there's just so many ingrained things that have happened over the past 20 years with people feeling they have no hope, and so they look to Donald Trump because that was
it could have influenced. It definitely influenced. It may have Shaun used the word confirmation bias. Definitely could have a lot to do with it, but did it decide people's minds? Maybe a couple people, but it's not the deciding factor. I don't think. So although yes, to Madison's point, it is important to recognize the influence that social media can have. I don't think that it was the deciding factor between one candidate versus another.
Sure. Yeah.
So the 2016 election, meddling, Cambridge Analytica, two least important issues, I think, that were covered throughout this Senate hearing with Zuckerberg. Number 3 on my list here, so we're starting to get to stuff that I actually think does play a role and is important as far as what Facebook did incorrectly and has been doing wrong for years. They've been giving away so much data, so much information of your friends. So if you sign up for anything and use Facebook to sign in, they'll give away. They connect to all your friends, so they give away all your friends' data. As far as a website that makes almost all their money from ads, that's important. That's super. I can't believe that hasn't been regulated in a better fashion. My 1,000 friends, if I sign up for something using Facebook, again, I'm just repeating myself here, but I'm trying to paint a better picture. My 1,000 friends' data that have it okayed on their, which is default, okay to share my info, which we all know has become a huge hot button issue. Those might all that where their location is, their friends, and all that stuff gets shared as well. So that's why Facebook makes so much money off their ads, because they just know so much about us.
Someone's data profile is worth more than gold.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
that's
honestly
crazy to think about, because I guess I don't fully realize how important that is. But I mean, I don't know. It's just
as a marketer, if you can frame a consumer in this neat and tidy way, which you can with Facebook, because so much information has already been given up by you voluntarily, and you can make this entire profile, and you know exactly how what ads to serve them and when to serve them, and what things people like. And I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. I mean, we live in a capitalist economy. We like consuming. Everyone in here likes consuming. There are things that I'm going to buy anyway. So if a marketer is targeting things that I might be more interested in than the next thing, am I really that mad about that? Not really. I'm not like that concerned about it, I guess, and maybe that's just because of like my background and what I studied in college. So like I'm more like I'm okay with it, but I just don't think that that's like have my data then. Like yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Frame my little world in more of a way that like suits me, I guess.
So we're going to get into that, exactly what you just said here. I'm actually going to switch spots, but filter bubble. So what that is I guess the actual definition would be intellectual isolation that occurs when websites use algorithms to selectively assume the information that a user would want to see. So we clearly saw that throughout the entire election process. And with Trump, I mean, if you like Trump, you like Trump's articles, you follow Fox News, they're going to feed you stuff pertaining to that.
It's just going to make those biases worse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And more extreme, which is what we're seeing. You're either on the left, far left, or on the far right. There's so little in the middle now.
But I don't think that everyone is like that. Like, I think that is just like,
the vocal majority.
It's easy.
Or minority.
I think it's easy to pinpoint those people, but I think most people are like you and me. Like, it's like we're normal.
But you do have to actively kind of seek out other opinions and find those things. But you're right. I
think most people are good and reasonable. Like, I really truly believe that. And unfortunately, the media does help to highlight those polar extremes.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely agree with that. And being in a tunnel is a problem.
Yeah, so impact on traditional media, that's another important aspect. They're sucking the air out of the room for that traditional media, which did have, like, we all know, so MSNBC is left, right? Fox is right, and then we got CNN, which is usually tries to be in the middle of things.
CNN is pretty far left. As far as today's
world, but so like the election in 2008 and 2012 is a way different world.
Sure, you're right. Yeah.
So they've been pigeonholed into as a left organization now, but sucking the air out for the traditional media. And then the last thing on my list would be that, which is the most important issue that was kind of discussed more so in the House hearing, was time well spent. And what that is I don't know if you guys know or remember a few months ago, maybe it was closer to 6 now, Zuckerberg posted a internal memo talking about, is Facebook actually good for you? Spending all this time on Facebook, is it time well spent? I mean, is it good for your health? And honestly, like all the studies that came out, is clearly not. And he acknowledges it, though. He acknowledges that, hey, you probably shouldn't be spending as much time as you do on Facebook.
Well, that was when they did that like whole pivot, right? To like, he wanted to like change. They made some change to how your like timeline was, or they were going to put less news in there or something, make it more about your friends.
Right.
So yeah.
So let's get into the actual hearing. Pretty much the Senate and the House. Senate had him first. All they did was have a gripe session discussing the 2016 election. That's pretty much what happened. Daniel, do you have some notes on somebody that actually did some good work there as a senator for the United States here?
So Kamala Harris, I've been following her for a while now. It started...
Isn't she your senator?
She's my senator.
I didn't know that.
I'm in Oakland, California right now, so she is my senator. And it started about 2 years ago when I got kind of curious about the election, what's happening. I was looking at the ballot, like California. I don't know if the listeners know this. When you get a ballot, it's like this huge, like I'm holding my hands about 2 feet apart right now. It folds up and it's just all of these ballot measures and it's this huge thing. You're just like, what am I looking at right now? It's double-sided. You have to flip to vote on
Is there
so
an R
many.
next to them or a D? Like,
yeah, you don't know. You really don't know. And it's little things like sugar taxes and using plastic bags in grocery stores.
Carbonated drinks.
I was so confused going into this voting, like how big this thing was. I was looking for something to kind of tell me, like, I want to go on YouTube and hear people talk about these things, or I want to hear someone talk so I know better what I'm voting for. And the League of Women Voters had this really cool live stream where they had the 2 people running for Senate debating at each other at some college in LA, and the name's escaping me right now. And one of them was Kamala Harris, and she was very dedicated. She was to the point in what she was saying. She knew what she was talking about. And I've kind of followed her throughout the course of the 2016 election. She's been a nice voice to listen to and talk about the struggles that she's facing and how she plays into it. She was heavy into the women's march against Donald Trump and all of the things she's done. And she's been a strong advocate. And so when I saw her at the hearing, it seemed like she's the only one that got to the root issue of her questions were, did you know that you had wrongfully used users' data? And at what point did you make the decision to not tell the users? It seemed like everyone else that was pressing Mark Zuckerberg, like, was talking about the election. They were talking about if they were swaying, like, to the right, to the left. They were trying to make it this political thing, but she actually was at the heart of the users. When did you know, and when did you decide to not tell them? So that was actually really refreshing to see someone up there addressing my biggest concern.
Yeah.
Like, the rest of it, I'm like, people are going to do that regardless of if it's Facebook, if it's me going shopping. They've been doing this for you can gather data from anywhere.
Right.
It was cool to see her up there, like, asking about the users.
How did he respond to her?
He had a moment where he kept saying I don't recall, and then finally he had deflecting. Finally, he had to come out and say, yes, we did know, and at some point we decided not to tell users or something like that. And so on one side, I really like seeing Kamala Harris up there and getting at the root issue I wanted to see. But on another point, I was kind of like, you have a possible 2020 run coming up for president. This is a nice opportunity to kind of brand yourself towards us younger people and say, I care about you. I care about your data. So I was being cognizant of that.
You were like watching. A little torn about her intentions, or?
Do I think she held back? She did hold back. She had a lot more questions she wanted to ask. At the end of the clip I watched, she was like, I'll submit the rest to you in writing or something like that. She had more she wanted to ask. But I think she used those 4 minutes well. I mean...
Is that how much time they each had?
That's how much time... That's the YouTube clip that I watched. It was about 4.5 minutes. Maybe that's how much time they each had.
So she's a senator that clearly did a great job, as you just said.
She did a really good job.
Here's an example of two senators that asked the most inane questions ever. One being Senator Orrin Hatch, who asked, how do you guys sustain a business model in which your users don't pay for the service? And Mark Zuckerberg replied, Senator, we sell ads. It's not a hard thing to understand. And I don't know if it's for the record, so it's on paper, written out. Like, why are they asking these most inane questions? Like, check out John F. Kennedy.
Well, there's so many jokes online. Like, they don't understand.
Which is too bad. Like, obviously, some of them are a little bit older, so maybe they don't quite understand. But
listen to this Senator John Kennedy, who asked, are you willing to go back and work on giving me a greater right to erase my data? Senator, you can already delete any of the data that we have. Are you willing to expand my right to prohibit you from sharing? Senator, again, I believe you already have control of that. Are you willing to give me the right to take my data on Facebook and move it to another social media? Senator, you can already do that. So, like, these senators don't understand how Facebook works, and that is like the biggest takeaway I saw. Kamala Harris.
I know. Well, basically, I guess I think the Senate was framed as like they were just out of touch. And then I think Congress did a better job, right? Sidebar though, did anybody see that video that I don't know who made of like, it's just Mark Zuckerberg saying senator over and over. Senator.
Someone can remix that easy. So good.
Senator.
This is kind of, does anybody know who Franz Ferdinand is? Archduke Franz Ferdinand?
Yeah.
You know the history behind him where he was kind of held up as like being the reason for World War I.
Well, yeah, he was the what's it called? The something gun, the smoking gun.
He was a straw hat man.
It was like
straw hat man.
What that means is like you prop somebody up as like taking the blunt.
The conditions were ripe for war, and then he got shot, and it was like, okay, it's all over. Like, yeah.
So that's kind of what's going on here is that people are propping up trying to prop up Mark Zuckerberg as being, the senators especially, being the reason the 2016 elections happened the way it did. Fake news feed spread.
I just don't agree.
But you're saying they got too hung up on that. They needed to focus on other things. Yeah.
The House did a way better job focusing on privacy. They were not having that little gripe session. But, they were discussing how Cambridge Analytica was a spark for how the election went. And basically what it comes down to is that Cambridge Analytica story, we're going to have more stories come out. So that's in 2014, when all that happened, and they knew that happened. I know.
That's crazy.
But so that's the whole thing, is like Facebook is telling these senators that yes, this happened in the past, but you already have, we've done what we can to right the wrongs, we've done what we can to make it so you can you can delete your data and all that. Slow drip story. There's going to be more examples. What else do you guys have? What else do you guys want to discuss here on the... I guess the main thing I have this... with this
conflict on conflict is what we're talking about.
With the Mark Zuckerberg, though, just to cap it off, overall, I think he dodged a lot of bullets. He did a really good job. If he didn't have the answer, he was able to sidestep.
I was gonna say it seems like from what I saw, he did the classic like deny, or like just deflect. Like it was almost easy for him to push it all aside, and I feel like nothing really came of this.
That's exactly nothing came of it. It was weird. One of the notes I have here says that how weighty this subject is and the timing of how important it is to talk about this right now was a missed opportunity. Like it feels like it was a missed opportunity to set some precedent and be like, this is what happens when blah, 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 blah. And it feels like everyone just kind of took their minutes to interrogate him, to press him for their own agendas.
Exactly.
And I was kind of like,
And I feel like this is now the question will be, is regulation going to come of this? Mm-hmm. Because I mean, I hope so, but easily it might not.
When Mark Zuckerberg's asked if he has a monopoly on social media, Facebook does, he says he doesn't believe so, and that people communicate with 8 different apps, including the texting app, the mail app, the WhatsApp, the Instagram app, the Twitter app, the Facebook app, So like the texting and mail app, him saying that and them asking about a monopoly that's not going to do anything here. I mean, it has nothing to do with the root of the problem, which is the privacy and people's data so much of their data is being up for grabs. Facebook is mission driven, and their drive is connecting people across the globe. You could be best friends with somebody or on Facebook in India, any other country. I mean, there's no boundaries anymore. And that's kind of what the number one takeaway is Facebook's willing to go blindly towards that drive, towards that mission, which is connecting people, and that could result in negative impacts on our elections and on our world. But being a mission-driven company like that,
what do you guys think is going to happen to Facebook over the next couple months here? Do you think that it's
I deleted my Facebook personally on my phone.
On your phone?
My app. Well, no.
So you didn't really.
But I only access it when I'm on my PC, on a PC now. So, but that's huge. Like I access it so much. Like if you think about that, that's a lot less. Like hours a week, literally.
I'm pro Facebook. Trips.
It's how I do the podcast. I mean, that's the reason why I have to have Facebook for sure. Is I have to have the EZPZ page. I'm kind of posting a couple things a week. So yeah, sadly I do have to keep it, but at the same time, I'm okay with not mindlessly just scrolling. I mean, people's thumbs are stronger than they've ever been. It's a scroll.
Thumb wars right now are crazy. I think it's weird. I was thinking about this the other day when we all have iPhones, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you can have an Apple chat, you can have an iChat going between different people, and I was like, how come I can't set up a profile connected to my number, and then when someone gets my number, they have a picture for me when I call, and I can like change that profile picture out like Facebook. Yeah. I think Facebook could be a competitive. Apple could compete with Facebook just on the volume of people that have Apple phones.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I don't know what's going to happen to Facebook over these next couple months, but I think they will see a drop in usage. Like this court thing is putting them in some bad light right now.
Yeah, but not enough to ultimately affect them. I mean,
for people that don't know, like it's enough that I was talking to my friend's mom and my mom at the dinner table last night, and they're in their 60s, and they were talking about, should I stop using Facebook? I don't know. And the conversation was about, well, they already have my data. Maybe I'll just keep using it. So I think it'll have an impact. Sometimes it's easy for us to think about what we would do in people our age, but especially with this election, is like older users and even younger users, even people that didn't grow up with Facebook, it's going to impact them.
Yeah. That's a good point. Let's get into a different kind of conflict. It's not one that you have with your social media apps. Lydia, tossing it to you. Tension in the Middle East. Give us a rundown like you're on Vice News.
I've been trying to read up on this and understand, and I've tried to do this a couple times because the Middle East is so complex, and there's a lot of players at play, if you will, like in what is actually going on. And recently, as the listeners at home probably know, Trump basically green-lighted a couple of bombings in Syria. And to specify, he wasn't just like carpet bombing the country. Like he's just bombing.
It was very targeted.
It was like targeted, like airstrips and things like that, like military type bases. So I always am trying to understand, like, so what is the root of this though? Like why is this like even happening, honestly? So I was kind of trying to do some research into that. Basically, Saudi Arabia and Iran have been in a somewhat of a proxy war over like the past like 20, 30 plus years, like for a long time. And Iraq was essentially like a wall between these two countries. Like physically, they're in between the two countries. Well, the United States invaded Iraq, as we know, after 9/11. And neither Saudi Arabia or Iran were like very keen on this. Like they didn't want that really, like at all. And then kind of like digging even like deeper into some of these roots, Saudi Arabia is Sunni. So for anyone who knows, that's kind of a Muslim like faction.
There's the
right?
Sunnis and the Shiites. Yeah. So you have two, yeah.
So the Saudi Arabians are more Sunni and the Iranians are Shia. And more Shiite. So Iran basically was fighting with extremists like in to support Assad. And Assad is, I'll back up for a second. Assad is obviously the dictator in Syria. To fast forward a little bit, so there's this conflict between these two countries, right? In 2011, the whole thing in Syria began with some peaceful protests, similar to like the Arab Spring, like what was going on. And there were some peaceful protests going on in Syria. And Assad, some of his military people, basically like police or whatever, opened fire like on these people. And that's like kind of like lit fire to the whole civil war. So there's a civil war going on in Syria. Iran was in full support of Assad, and they basically sent help to Syria. Like this is through like financing and things like
guns,
that. Yeah,
weapons.
Like they're supporting Assad. Saudi Arabia supports the rebels. So right now and in the past, they've been supporting the rebels, which has evolved into Jordan and Turkey being involved as well. And they're like Saudi Arabia, and they're in support of the rebels. Well, Obama, I don't know if you guys remember, but do you remember him making like an announcement like...
Yeah, the red line.
Yeah, we're going to maybe go to war with Syria or whatever, like a few years ago. Well, Obama, although we didn't end up like officially going to war, Obama signed an order basically green-lighting the CIA like training in arms dealing with the rebels in Syria. And then in 2013 is when the chemical stuff started. Like, I don't know like what everyone believes, but like supposedly there were chemical attacks on Assad's people by him. Like he ordered them. And actually, I found this interesting. Russia, after that time, after 2013, Russia, like Putin said, like he encouraged Assad to like disband his chemical like weaponry, which is weird, right? Because I thought that Russia
think
was like
Obama made an agreement that was like his compromise, sort of, was like he, instead of doing anything, he tried to make some compromise to say, okay, Russia, will you like tell them to tone it down? I found that
interesting though, because I thought that Putin was like all gung-ho about Assad, you know what I mean? So
it could have been like on just purely face value, like we're gonna do this, and then who knows, but yeah.
So anyway, all in all, there's been like an ongoing conflict, and it's like we've heard the word proxy war. It's basically like this group of countries who has inadvertently supported this other group, the rebels, and then it's this other group of countries like Russia, Iran, and the Syrian actual government, Assad, like supporting those folks. And then, all in all, a fucking rebel group broke off from this conflict and became ISIS. So there's like an extremist group that's trying to like take their, like, I think it's kind of like opportunist, really. Yeah. Because they're like, okay, well, and then it's just like things evolve like the human mind.
There was a vacuum in Syria, and a lot of things came from that.
And in 2015, the Russians bombed the U.S.-backed rebels. To like add insult to injury, and at first actually Trump supported Assad,
like many things that he's,
and then now here we are. So just to kind of bring it full circle, I'm sure none of that explanation made any sense.
No. I want to chime in and say that was an amazing rundown as someone that's kind of like not followed it, but as someone that hears people talk about Syria, and I'm kind of like, I wish I could chime in a little bit more. That was a good rundown for me to start this conversation, so thank you.
Okay, good.
No, you did good. Yeah, that's good.
She got that all from an 8 minutes of YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube is pretty tight. Well, I knew about the like proxy war situation. I kind of vaguely understood that there are some more deep-seated like situations that aren't like, completely hashed out. And, you know, bottom line is, I think that Putin and Trump should just do mushrooms together.
That would help a lot of things.
They should.
No, I will say this morning, some like people were talking about how whether or not these strikes were effective. And I think that this is maybe one of the few things that like Trump maybe did a good thing, but people are saying it's a short term, like, yes, they were very targeted, but he was trying to like hurt their chemical weapons program, but basically he can easily restart them. So it's like on like the surface, it looks like really strong, really good, but who knows how effective it will actually be.
Mm-hmm. So can you kind of explain who's versus who here? What's Russia doing, backing who, and like what's the U.S. backing?
Well, I think that the point is like traditionalism, right? So Saudi Arabia is like more of a monarchy, and they're not really like a democratic society, whereas a lot of the Arab world has, during the Arab Spring, pushed democracy and kind of split away from that idea. And I think Saudi Arabia wants to like uphold that as their principle, and it's influencing their people and so forth, and they don't want to have like an uprising on their hands.
But they are supporting the rebels, aren't it? They don't support Assad. So basically, Assad is in like his supporters they're called Alawites, and they're like the minority in the country, which is weird. And so the majority is the people who like wanted change.
Right.
And
they're the ones throwing the rocks.
And so Iran's, I think, right?
Yeah, you are right.
So Iran, it's confusing as hell. It's so confusing. But basically, like, Iran and who's the other one? Russia. I don't know the main reason why they support so much what Assad is doing. A lot of it probably has to do with money and weapons, to be honest. And then you have Saudi Arabia, like Turkey, all supporting the rebels. It's just a mess. It's just a fucking mess. Like, it's like everything in the Middle East. It's all confusing and yeah.
Yeah, it's super complex. Every time it comes up on Vice News tonight, I'm just like I feel my eyes glaze over. I mean, it's hard. It's so much easier for us in the U.S. to be like, that's over there. Like, I don't,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
exactly.
pay attention.
And I think that's probably why, like you said, it's kind of like one of those things that we hear about all the time, but we don't really have a stake in it. So
I feel like we hear about it and then people feel obligated to have an opinion on it real quick when someone says something about it. So I just usually stay quiet because I'm like, I
don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. And so having a forum like this and having Lydia come present and then you come in and correct and say that what was going on, that was a good. Thank you guys for saying
When I edit the podcast, I'll listen to it like 9 different times over, so I get a even better idea.
I do think it's a conflict that we're going to look back on like 10 to 15 years from now and be like, shit, why didn't we do more? Like, it's a humanitarian crisis, and it's just sad, but...
Basically, Russia's on the other side. We're against Russia, right? I mean, that's kind of
yeah, it is. Even you could say it's a proxy war almost between the U.S. and Russia in a way.
What people say is like basically it's just a proxy war. It's like a Cold War between Russia. It's again like
we're using pawns. Both sides.
Between the United States and Russia, because Russia wants to keep Assad in power and like all in all, like whatever details aside, like we for whatever reason we want like the rebels to overthrow and for humanitarian reasons and stuff, but that could get like even deeper. Like some people could argue like, did that really like happen? Like how do we even know? Like that there were I mean, just to be devil's advocate, like we don't even know for sure. Like no one was there. We don't know like what is actually. I've heard arguments like chemical attacks didn't even happen. It's like it's a false flag. It's a false flag to like get the American people upset and say like, yeah, let's do what we just did a couple days ago. Like it was all in support of that, so that we can have our own way, basically, like with the Middle East, like as we have in the past. But I don't know if I really believe that. I guess I'm, as people probably have picked up by now, I'm like kind of someone who tends to believe that people are good and not bad. So I would like to believe that we're not like intentionally just for the sake of violence, like inciting issues in the Middle East. Like I think that the United States means well, although we don't always project that.
Right. So speaking of another power, though, I want to kind of 4 of you guys in the room. I want to talk about Putin.
God,
I just think that.
Where's the vodka?
So, I mean, just overall, though, Putin, I mean, it was brought to my attention. I'm not going to go into specifics, but a family friend, essentially, shined the light on things.
Family friend?
I'm not going to go into specifics here.
It's my cousin.
Her Russian cousin, who is a teenager, essentially.
No, he's not.
He's like barely 20. That's a teenager in my eyes. Anyway, we're getting off track here.
Let's focus on the important facts, okay? He's 20 years old. His name is Adam. He is my...
He lives there.
He is Russian.
His address? Anyways.
He is Russian, and he pretty much said that we have a crazy amount of propaganda in this country that's anti-Russia, anti-Russian, anti-Putin propaganda. Pretty much was saying that he thinks Putin is the greatest.
Oh, well, that's propaganda in itself.
Propaganda.
So I wanted to hear what you guys thought overall. I mean, we had a short conversation on Friday, maybe not all of us, but at least other friends in the friend group while we were watching the Coachella live stream about how this weird conversation happened at Easter, and that kind of caught me off guard, knocked me on the backs of my feet.
Yeah.
And to hear somebody say that, I think Putin's like the greatest leader in the free world right now. But anyway, I want to hear you guys' thoughts.
I am not a fan of Putin, not by any means. I think it's healthy to look back, to look at everything and say there's definitely some bias as to what we hear. But I just think, in Russia, people are so, they are fed the most propaganda. They are told that, Putin is doing all these things, to help them and blah, blah, blah.
It's not really a healthy world or country if 87% of your population votes for one person.
And they don't have, democratic elections. I mean, whatever, the list goes on. But I can see the side he's coming from because, for sure, again, we see all the time and hear all the time that, Russia is just Russia sucks and Putin's terrible. But I do think there is some, merit behind that. And, what propaganda is he talking about? Like, exactly, you know?
He kills his like adversaries and things like that.
But that's true. Like that, a lot of that is true.
We don't know that though. That was his point. Is like that's just what our media, who's had a personal bias against Russia for 30 years, is saying. That's
no,
fair.
it's healthy.
Right.
It's healthy. Again, it's healthy to sit back and say, okay, we like don't get all the facts. We're fed specific things, but overall, I will say Putin is like just ecstatic right now. He's like so happy with what's happening in this country. Like he's happy that we have Trump. Things couldn't be better for him. Like
Right.
Yeah. That's what I'll say. What?
Dipping into,
So
I guess.
exhausting.
Yeah, I know.
Any thoughts you'd like to share, Daniel, on Putin and your thoughts on Putin? Do you think? Okay, do you think that we do have some propaganda in the country?
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, for sure.
We definitely
Yes.
have. This is what I
Yeah.
was going to get into, and for the listeners, I don't know if you can tell from my voice or whatever. I'm black, and so hey,
Let's just get
hi,
that out of the way here.
hey there. When people kind of talk about Obama and the Obama legacy and how we think about Obama, I've been kind of questioning like how much of that is my bias / propaganda into being excited that I had the first black president and I was able to see that versus the things he has done that might have been a little shady.
Yeah.
I'm going to reflect on that question over the next couple of years of my life, but it's very easy to be fed propaganda. And if someone believes something and they're wrapped up in it, it's not right that people can be manipulated like that, but I can remember times I have been as well, and I'm trying to stay alert as to when I'm being now. So to whoever was telling you that about Putin a couple weeks ago, I see how it's easy to get there.
Yeah,
Because
especially
I've
like,
probably been there, and I'm probably still there right now and not even realizing it. You just have to keep it in check.
but you're already so like aware of those things, and like again, all of us are clearly like we need to
It's just good to keep in mind that although I'm not a huge fan of Putin in any respect, literally, even the photo of him is shirtless on a horse, like I'm not a fan of that. There's not getting the jollies going, no. But he's just, it's good to keep in mind that there is propaganda. And as far as Obama, I mean, Obama was a great president. There's nothing anyone can take away from that, but he did kill a lot of kids.
Well, but you also have to look at every other president, and like those things are, it's sad to say, but they're always going to happen. Like when you have that much power, unfortunately, like my dad like always talks about how like, oh, he is a total advocate of like, Obama was not that great because of all the shit that he did. Oh, he is not a huge fan of Obama.
I did not know that. Did he vote for him in both elections?
I mean, I'm sure he did, but like, because you have to like look at those things. But I don't care if like, I do care that he did those things, but he was at least a diplomat and he did the things he was supposed to be.
Wow, I mean, he was a very respectable human being. We just got a refill up in here for EZPZ alcohol correspondent Lydia.
Thank you.
Alcohol correspondent.
Local town drunk has refilled the lemon heads with more Bloody Mary. So
Cheers to that.
we would be remiss though. Cheers, y'all. I don't have one because I am responsible. I would be remiss without having our local political correspondent, Madison, give us a rundown on what happened this week.
What had happened this week is Paul Ryan announced his retirement from Congress. It's your boy, Paul Ryan. My favorite little meme this past week I retweeted on Twitter was like, man farts entire way up elevator and then gets off at the top floor. He just did all this shitty stuff for years, and now he's fucking retiring. Like
at the top of his game.
He's retiring before shit hits the fan.
Yep.
And that's what people are saying or like speculating is that he was worried about his election. And he knows that like the blue wave, it's coming.
Yep.
Like
is it coming?
That's what you could debate, but that's what people are speculating is that the House is gonna, turn blue, and he doesn't want to be in that mess, and so he's claiming oh, it's time to be with my family, blah, blah, blah. Like, whatever, dude.
He's just such a gross person.
He's just bowing out. And it's funny because there are some representatives calling, like, for him to just fucking leave. They're like, if you're going to do this, then you need to leave now.
When does he plan it? When did he say he's gonna, like, I haven't.
Like this past week.
So, but he's not going to come up for re-election. Like, he's not
No,
gonna,
he's going to retire. And
well,
then
he's going to go till the end of the year, right? When
right,
the election
but
happens.
some people want him to, like, leave now.
Because it gives room for the next Republican that would be coming in to, like, actually gain some ground.
Like, get out of here. You stink up the
go.
place. Just,
That's a crazy move.
I don't know. It's just interesting. And everyone's like, well, so what are his motivations? Like, some people are like, is he going to run for president? Blah, blah, blah. But he claims he has nothing political, like, in his future.
I feel like we should have a good idea of who's running for president this year for sure.
Right.
Because there has to be companies.
By the end of this year, I'm sure there will be a more clear idea.
Even people that don't announce, they have to have these shell companies that are funding, because you have to have that stuff on paper.
Yeah.
I mean, so like Rock for president, and that's already out there.
Mm-hmm.
So we know there is. Look, I understand.
I've seen Jumanji, okay?
What do you mean? That movie was
Jumanji
Yeah, it
is
actually
bomb.
was hilarious.
Jumanji.
I thought I was gonna hate it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it was hilarious.
I cried laughing. at that movie.
so good.
Okay, I
Lydia and I watched it.
Moral of the story from this podcast, I need to go see Jumanji.
If you take anything away from this, I'm gonna just tell you, listeners.
Well, I'm going to see Rampage also in theaters with fellow Lemonhead Nick. We're probably going to do an easy peasy and chill. But we need to have that one more update, though. Didn't you want to talk about Paul Manafort?
Manafort, basically,
He's a man
also
apart.
sucks. He was just somebody that I had, like, heard about because he was Trump's campaign manager, I think. And then he just recently, like, got indicted for all this shit. But The Atlantic, I subscribe to, they wrote this really good article on him. And basically, he's just like this scummy dude who, like, he changed the game for, like, lobbying. Like, lobbying did not used to be a thing. Like, people didn't think, oh, we should pay somebody to go tell congressmen, like, what to do.
To get in the congressman's ears.
He changed that whole game, made it all about, like, money, and he also has a lot of ties to, like, Russian oligarchs, and that's what's getting him into trouble now, is that he had some connections to Ukraine with their whole crisis that happened a few years ago. Anyway, like, bottom line,
we could
he's
speculate so much about this Russian meddling thing, like all these indictments
knows,
and
yeah.
Trump's lawyer getting.
There's a
raided.
lot going on, but it just was interesting to read, like, his background and, like, how much, like, one person could affect, like, change. It's just crazy.
So you're giving a shout out to the Atlantic's article write-up profiling Paul Manafort. Ford.
Yes. I will say the Franklin Four was the one who wrote the actual article. But
Good to
just
hear
a
that you're
stinky
keeping
dude.
well read on that.
Stinky dude. He just has, like, no morals. It's, like, basically what the article, like, comes down to, is he just ugh.
Yeah.
I don't know how people can
I'll have to
operate that
read
way.
Dang.
This has been an awesome episode of EZPZ Podcast. Episode 73. You can check out all of our episodes on TheEZPZ.com or on YouTube. We have, like, the last 20 plus episodes up there, and a good chunk of our first episodes still in limbo with the middle chunk there, but we'll get more up there. TheEZPZ.com. You can find the EZPZ at TheEZPZ. I'm Shaun S. Johnson. Lydia, where can they find you and anything that you're doing?
Instagram at LYDDZ or at The Retired Human. Follow me for organic homegrown memes.
For sure. Madison?
Mad City 515, Twitter and Instagram.
And this is all going to be up there on the YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, which we're most likely, or it's in the show notes where you can find everybody there, that image at their handles. Daniel.
You can find me everywhere at my first and last name together. That's DANIYEL TURNER. It's very easy. Thank you, Mom, for naming me with a Y. It's easy to find.
That's super, that's super unique. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Daniel. I know you have a lot going on with family and stuff, so it's cool. And Madison, bouncing back.
Hell yeah.
You've been out, like, a lot here. Lydia for supplying. This has been EZPZ Podcast, and we out. Now you can do your blues.
I already did.
Yeah, but.